I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program that is about the big G, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and the little g, all the good things that people do to put that gospel into action. A lot of people make sometimes very foolish comments. They say that Christians are against abortion, but then once the child is born, they don't care anymore. Nothing could be further from the truth. We live in a society today that wants everybody to be perfect according to society's image of what is perfect. And so many times, even before a child is born, they take tests, amniocentesis tests. They take sonograms, and they say the baby doesn't look just perfect. Therefore, we suggest maybe an abortion. This is happening especially with children with Down syndrome. You know that in some countries, they are now bragging that there are no Down syndrome children being born. The gospel calls us to take care of all of God's children. The perfect, like me, and the I'm just kidding, guys. And the imperfect, those people who maybe they have some kind of a handicap, a disability. It could be a physical disability, it could be a mental disability. What does the church do? What do Christians do with these special people? There's also a concern, and this is a genuine concern. Parents, when they have these special children, they say to themselves, what's going to happen to them when I'm not around? And that's a very, very serious concern. The body of Christ is there for them too. So today we brought on some wonderful people from God's Protective Harbor. They work out of Fort Myers, and they take care of these special people. So I want to welcome Mr. Jeff Buchholz, and
thank you.
I want to introduce to you the famous Peter Holmes. Wait till you hear him talk. He sounds just like he came from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeff, tell us about God's Protective Harbor. What's it all about? How did it get started?
Well, that was a great setup for this. The brainchild was really a fella by the name of George Pappas, who had a daughter with developmental disabilities. And George and his wife said, what are we going to do with our daughter Cleo when we can no longer care for her? So quite frankly, it was his brainchild of an idea probably a dozen years or so ago to look into building a home. And that was really the way the first home started. Up in Fort Myers on the campus of the Baptist Church up there. And it was a home that we built for 6 residents. It's very different than anything that most have ever seen before, because the gist of it was, the idea was that these folks would grow up in a Christian environment. And the people, the staff that we have is incredible, absolutely incredible.
They have to be, to deal with people with disabilities, they have to be incredible people. Not only do they have to be incredible insofar as their knowledge, how do you take care of these people, but also it takes a great deal of patience and a whole lot of love.
Absolutely, and a heart for Jesus. I mean, this is a mission for these folks. This is not a job. This is something they were called to do. And you see it in our residents. But God has continued to bless this ministry.
How many do you have? You say you have 6 in the home at the Baptist Church campus.
That's correct.
And then you have the second home again, 6.
6, exactly right. They've all got their own bedroom. They've got their own bathroom, shared kitchen. I mean, they do meals together. They help cook meals. It's their house. Living room, big TV. I mean, they're beautiful, beautiful homes, and both of them are pretty new.
We've recently taken on an executive director, and the board are looking at a direction forward to help more of them. That may be in we may not be building homes anymore. We may do it in a different way. We're going to be talking about that direction very soon. But I think we're set up to help more of them. That's our heart. And we obviously we're always looking for funding, but people have been very generous to us. And
Well, I tell you what, when this show airs, you're going to get tons of money, tons of money coming in. But I want to, ask you, when we talk about handicap, special needs, what kind of handicaps are you equipped to deal with? What about their physical needs, ambulatory abilities? What about that?
well, I think that's your question, Jeff.
Well, we're able to. Most of our residents are. It's more. It's not necessarily physical disabilities. It's more mental. I mean, we've got adults that are, they're in 30, 40, 50-year-old bodies, but they've got 10-year-old minds. So it's really more developmental challenges than it is any physical. Now, one of the challenges we do have, though, you bring up a great point, is we want this to be a home for life. Their forever home is something we coined at one of our board meetings a few years back. And we're finding more and more needs as they age.
Right.
But to answer the question you asked, because I think this is really important about where these residents come from. They come primarily through state organizations and through the state of Florida, and we're fed these folks through these different organizations. Our goal, as Peter was alluding to, is to not just be dependent on state funds and that's going to pay their way, so to speak, but we would like to reach out to be able to provide maybe scholarships or opportunities for residents that won't have an opportunity any other way. I mean, what if we could have a home that we could pay for the resident to live there?
Right.
That ultimately would be our goal, because to your point, we're taking care of 12 of them. There are hundreds of thousands of them waiting on lists just in the state of Florida.
Well,
that's
and what would you say? Why are they mentally challenged? Some kind of a disability from birth?
absolutely.
Okay.
And your story in the beginning was beautiful, because I thought of Whitey. I thought of Whitey Ellis. I mean, our first resident in our men's home was Dennis, and that's who brought me to this. I was buddies with Dennis at church. And Dennis would he wanted to come and sit and pray with us. He would, I mean, just as genuine as you could possibly be. And it was his heartbeat that got me involved with all this. Then I met his mom and dad. And Whitey told me the story. He said when Dennis was born, they said, you know what, he's going to bring brain dead. Dennis isn't going to, my boy's going to be fine. You know what, we're going to take care of this boy. And to this day.
Could you tell me, what would his mental capacity be? If you just had to say, how old would he be mentally?
12.
12. Okay, not bad. I mean,
But he knows Jesus.
All right. Yeah, he knows Jesus, and evidently he knows a lot of other things, how to get along. He's been with
True.
you how long?
He's been with us for ever since we got the second home built a couple of years, 3 years ago.
So
3 years
he's
ago,
there 20 years,
2017, I think it was.
And he's functioning well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Peter, we talked about, the disabilities, mental disabilities, learning disabilities. Okay, so they come to you, they're funneled in basically through the state. All right? Does the state reimburse you for their care?
They do,
Okay.
to some extent.
Okay. Now, what does the state expect you to do for them? Is there a program that you have?
Oh my. There's lists
Okay,
of stuff.
so the
we have to
state
do.
tells you what to do, or do you say, well, wait a minute, state, we know what to do on our own. We are a Christian organization. We know how to take care of people. Tell me, how do you work that out? Because sometimes the state can be a bit burdensome.
Yeah, they have guidelines. It's sometimes difficult, but I guess they're helpful, Lisa.
Well, we literally have got two audits, inspections, whatever you want to call it, going on today. That's why our director isn't here, because we've got literally, she's wrapped up in doing two of these inspections today.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of requirements, all kinds of paperwork, all kinds of, making sure that certain protocols are followed.
Correct.
And so on.
Correct.
Alyssa's here with us today too. She can tell you more about that, because she's really involved in the homes quite frequently.
Okay, we're
and
going to
she
talk
can
to
you
Alyssa
more about.
in a little while. But before we get to Alyssa, I want to ask you, what does a day at God Protective Harbor look like? So your clients get up in the morning. What time?
That's a good question. But I know that many of them have jobs. They'll get up in the morning and they'll go to work at, Goodwill, or at the church. They'll go work at the church, or most of them have jobs. They have somewhere that they go.
That's great. But let's see, is there a time to say, we get up in the morning for breakfast? How does it work? I mean,
Yep, they
Okay.
do, and I think they all have breakfast together. They help prepare it, and I don't know what time they get up. Alyssa might know that.
we'll ask Alyssa what time they get up.
Yeah, I actually don't know, but I know that they prepare it together. Again, they sit around a table just like a family. I mean, this is brothers and sisters that live together.
Right.
It's literally they are a family.
Is there like a house mother there or something that takes care of like the
You
24
can address
hours?
that.
I think for me, I'd heard about, Jeff and I have been friends for years, and I'd heard about Protected Harbour, and one day Jeff said to me, why don't you come to one of the houses and just have a look around? Very sneaky. So I thought, well, yeah, okay, we're friends, I'll go. And they just amazed me how full their life is. They were joyous to see me, and they take my hand, take me into their room, show me. They're learning instruments. They showed me what they've achieved this year, and this is what they're going to achieve by the end of the year. They show me their Bible readings.
This is amazing.
I was overwhelmed.
So they gave you a tour.
They were fighting over me. They come look in my room. No, come look in. Well, wait a second. I'll come to your room.
What's so beautiful about that is they're so proud of themselves and what they've achieved, and also they're in the Lord. They're reading the Bible, or they're hearing God's word, and somebody's proclaiming it to them, and so once you bring the gospel into sometimes even the most difficult situations, folks, is a whole new attitude.
Yeah.
It's like sunshine coming into a darkened home, a darkened life. Now, what about their parents? Are their parents still alive, or are many of the parents gone, or how does that work out?
I think most of them, Jeff.
Most are still alive, or a caretaker. It may be a brother or sister or somebody, but there's some caretaker there, or parents. But I got to tell a story of what you just talked about. So my wife and I at Christmas time decided to go up to the homes. I mean, this is the way the homes work. We went up to our home in where all the women are, our first one. And we decided we were going to take actually we were going up to take gifts to the staff. And my wife said to me, you can't just take gifts for the staff. You're going to just give gifts to them and nothing for the residents? Of course, I never thought about that. And she said, well, let's take them some cookies. She said, you know what, we're going to take them some cookies, but we'll also take them a recipe and the ingredients to make it, because that's what they enjoy doing. I'm going to tell you what, Pastor, we walked in there and 3 of them scattered. They went to their rooms and were writing Christmas cards.
Oh, wow.
And they came out with cards, with gifts for my wife, putting a scarf on her and that matches your eyes and your outfit. They're all about service. Thursday, we had an event, a retirement party for the couple that's leaving. Guess who served us all day long? I got a call from our executive director, Loretta, and she said, they've already got everything set up, Jeff. This must have been 8 in the morning, and we weren't meeting until like 11:30, I think. They had everything all set up, and when we got there, we had pizzas and stuff and social distancing, the whole deal, and They were serving everybody. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Would you like a tea? This is from our residents. They have got more of a heart for Jesus than the people across the street at this restaurant.
Yeah.
You know, that,
And
I mean,
imagine, you know, people say, well, who would want to live like that? Who would want a child like that? What good do they do for society? And as you can see, they can do quite a bit for themselves and to share that joy of living with other people. That's why this show is Action for Life. And this is Action for Life, what takes place at this wonderful, wonderful institution, God's Protective Harbor. So we are now going to bring in this lovely lady, Alyssa Hayes, that you've mentioned. She's here, and she's going to tell us about the program that takes place on a daily basis and how the people learn at Protective Harbor. Be right back. As you can imagine, producing this wonderful program, Action for Life, it costs a great deal of money. We're going to need your help. So if you would like to donate to keep this good news program on the air, please go to your computer, your cell phone, actionforlife.net. And now for our thought for the day. Prayer is extremely important. We're not fighting a battle just against earthly powers. We're fighting a battle against evil. Please take some time each day to pray and ask God for the strength that you need and that we need to keep up the battle for life. And we are back. And now we have with us the heart of Protective Harbor. This is Alyssa Hayes, and she is the secretary of the board, but she is also a speech pathologist, and she's done some work with some of the residents at Protective Harbor. So, Alyssa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Well, could you tell me, how did you get involved?
So I was trying to think. I think it's been close to 8 to 9 years that I got involved. I was in a Bible study, and another woman there said, you know, my husband's involved in this ministry, and we know of your background as a speech pathologist. I think you'd be interested. Mm-hmm. And hooked me in, and I've been there ever since.
Okay, so you went and visited.
I think I went to a board meeting and realized that the residents that they had were the adults of the children that I worked with. And I just loved that continuum, and I thought, this is exactly what I want for my students when they grow up. This is where I want my students to end up.
Okay, so you had some experience with special needs people.
Yes, okay. I work with students with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, whether they have a label for their diagnosis or not, that we don't look at that. Mm-hmm. We look at the child and what they can do, and we look at all that they can give back to us and what they can learn, and we always look at the positives. And so that's what I do on a daily basis. I've been given a gift. I thank God for the gift that I've been given, to be able to teach others how to communicate. We're communicating right now. It's a gift to be able to communicate, whether it's verbally, non-verbally, with a device of some sort, pictures. And so I was able to go in and help this young lady, even just to get her voice out. And today, to see her, she's no longer wearing dark glasses. She's no longer keeping her head down. She's speaking and she's interacting with her brothers and sisters in these homes. Whereas before, she was in such a dark hole.
And then you began to work with her. So she comes to you and she's like, you said, in a dark place.
Oh, yes.
She wasn't even looking at anybody, just like not talking.
Not eating, not talking, nothing.
Nothing. What did you do?
I built a relationship with her. I had to have her trust me. A lot of our residents have grown up maybe not feeling quite as embraced. Their families are loving. It's not no fault of their family, no fault of their teachers, of their therapists, but for whatever reason, but they need to trust you because they are so gentle. They need to trust you. You need to build that relationship. And then once you have them, the sky's the limit with what they can do. And this girl now, because she built trust with me, with one of the house staff, with another person who came in as a volunteer to work with her, a person who came to teach an instrument, she is now a flutist. She has taught herself Japanese.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Run this by me again. She's a flutist, and she learned Japanese.
Yes.
All right, well, the diagnosis on her.
She's also an equestrian, as are some other residents. They're also all wonderful artists.
Maybe I should take up residence over there. I mean,
Well, we've
what
all
would you do
joked
for
about
me?
that.
I mean,
We've all joked about how we all one day want to live at Protected Harbor because it is a beautiful place. And these are the most gentle, kind human beings who love you and me for who we are. We have a one resident who is just an amazing witness to God. And if you need a prayer for anything, she is our prayer warrior. She meets you. She tells you, how can I pray for you? We have another resident who's phenomenal at knitting and crocheting. Another resident who's a jewelry maker. I mean, she makes phenomenal jewelry. Each and every one of our residents, in the prior segment, Jeff alluded to Dennis. Dennis is a golfer. They all have a sport that they're involved in, and they excel in.
Folks, I'm amazed. I'm amazed at what I'm hearing. This Protective Harbor is just a fantastic place. What you've been able to do with these special needs people, who a lot of society might think they're just a waste. Could you imagine if they were not here, if they were aborted, what we would have lost? What we would have lost. Right? Tell me about a day. Some of them go to work, okay? Some stay home.
I don't know
Or
that
does everybody work?
I don't know that many even stay home at this point because we have one resident who his dream has been to work at Publix and secured a job at Publix prior to COVID-19. And unfortunately, due to this now, has not been able to work and therefore has lost his opportunity. But the staff, we are determined, we as a board and the staff are determined that he will get that job back, and he will.
I've been to Publix many, many times, and they do a wonderful thing by hiring people with special needs.
Yes,
So
they do.
kudos to Publix. I mean, I'm very, very pleased that you're taking such an interest in these people who, I'll tell you the truth, I know many of them by name.
Yes.
And they're the most pleasant people in the whole world, and they're just so happy to pack your shopping bag
They are.
for you. And you leave there, feeling good. One young man, every time I go, he gives me a big hug.
That's
It's outstanding. So Publix, thank you, Publix. Keep up your good work with that. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing that you're doing.
But they wake up in the morning, to your question about their day.
Yeah.
I mean, they wake up and, they might not all wake up at the same time because some might be early risers. Hey, look at a fraternity house, a sorority house, or any other dorm. Everybody's on different schedules, but they have goals that are set from our agencies that come in and do inspections and so forth. And so they do have daily goals that they need to accomplish, whether it is doing their laundry successfully, whether it's cleaning their dishes successfully, preparing their own meals. And they go to their day programs. There's programs that they go to either to work or to volunteer or to learn, some sort of a training of some sort. And our schools do a fantastic job because our kids, our students with special needs do go to our schools up until they're 21 or 22 years of age. And so they do job trainings. And so it's a great segue right into these homes, and we hope to just build more because they have the ability to influence our community.
Well, this is amazing, what I'm hearing, what you folks are hearing. This is a fantastic organization. I don't know how many of you are familiar with God's Protective Harbor, but it's an organization that you are going to want to get to know a little bit better. And I think that you should consider making a very, very generous contribution to their excellent work. I would say probably need a third residence.
Yes.
Okay? So I think some of you out there, you might have the means to help get started a third residence for special people. And if you have people who have concerns, doctor said, look, baby does not look perfect, and you're scared, maybe you should think about Protective Harbor. Maybe go visit and see what can be done with special people. Because as we hear right now, they can do quite a bit, but they're also very inspiring by their faith and by their prayer life. And I'm like getting all choked up over
I
here.
know.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It
It's
is.
beautiful.
Yes. I encourage you to come to the home and visit or go to godsprotectedharbor.org. But if you go onto that site, we have a new executive director by the name of Loretta Montrim, and we would be happy to assist you in any way.
Well, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've been wonderful.
Thank you.
And you really are the heart of the organization. Good for you. God bless you.
Thank you.
We would like to thank our generous sponsors for their wonderful support. Thanks for watching. Please join us next time for Action for Life. I'm for action, and I hope you are too. I'm Father Michael Orsi. I am your host for Action for Life Television, that good news program which talks about the gospel of Jesus Christ, the big G, and the little g, all the good things that people are doing to put the gospel of life into action. So please join us for the next episode of Action for Life.